Hello friends, Tanya here with another Spellbinders video, and this time I am playing with the Fair Winds collection and the Tunnel Scapes collections. We're going to take the different components of the Fair Winds and assemble them. This is the Set Sail die set. This is another set from Dawn Wollschlegel. She came out with a I can't remember what it was called last year. She had the Sea Life glimmer foil plates with the seahorses and coral and fish. And it had this wonderful 3D embossing folder that was a net just kind of swagging across the whole page. Well, this one continues with that seafaring theme and has several different components that you can use separately or together. Here's this gorgeous wave crashing up on, well, in this collection, it can be crashing up on rocks, by a lighthouse, on your boats. Here we've got the sailboat pieces. There are several layering pieces here. We've got the frame of the sailboat. We've got the sails. We've got the base of the boat and then the cabin attachments, plus a nice little piece that adds an edge of trim across the top of the hull of the boat. I'm assembling all of the pieces pretty much as intended here. I've put the base of the boat onto the white backer. Here we've got the edging at the top of the hull, and I've already applied the cabin if you had an enclosed cabin on your boat. I live in Minnesota. There are sailboats on some of the lakes that are around here. You do have to have enough space to sail around on your lake. So most places, like Lake Bemidji, I live in Bemidji. Lake Bemidji is big enough. There are some sailboats on that lake, and it's kind of fun to see them. But it's not like an ocean type sailing boat. These are smaller. This is sweet. It's really cute. I don't think I assembled the sails on this correctly. I believe the very triangular piece is supposed to go all the way down on that little white crossbar, and then you make the rest match up. But you do just put little dots of glue on the corners of the triangles of the sails to assemble them. You aren't going to put glue anywhere else. Here I'm going to make just a standard fishing boat like we use typically here in Minnesota. Like we have a little 14-foot aluminum, maybe it's 16 foot in my, anything 14 feet or less, I believe you don't have to get a license on that boat. I think our kayaks are 14 foot or something like it's in that range. So they're small-ish. They're designed to hold 2 to 4 people tops. And if you put 4 people in there, man, it's tight, and you are really making sure you're not hitting anybody with your fishing pole. Here I've decided, I am deciding which of these boats I want to put on the background, kind of using this piece of white cardstock that I had used. I had done some gel press printing on with, I believe that was the Nautilus bold print from Hero Arts. I did that a couple years ago. I love gel press printing, but I end up with so many pieces I can't use them all. And then I feel like I can't make any more gel press prints until I use up the ones I've already created. I don't have to make rules for myself like that, but I kind of do. I kind of do. Do you make funny rules for yourself when it comes to crafting? There are these beautiful layering cloud dies in this same set, and here I've got a few different configurations. And then we're going to move on to the oh boy die set. This is super cute. It's got the lifesaver ring, it's got the pier posts, and it's got this cute little seagull and some buoys. Buoy, buoy, how do you say it? Now this ring does have some embossing that shows you where the red stripes go, or whatever color you decide to make them. They were really hard to see on my die cut here, and I think it's because I used my Sidekick, which doesn't give the greatest pressure. If you want the nice deep pressure, use your platinum. Or you know what, I recorded this video before Father's Day, the week before Father's Day, and I am just now getting to doing the voiceover. And when I came home from this last stretch of work, my Scout has arrived. Oh, I cannot wait to try these smaller dies. Well, anything other than a full background die, or the largest of the layering dies, you should be able to do in the Scout. And I'm really excited to do that. I think it's going to really be a game changer for me. Next, we're going to assemble this pier post, and it is very easy to do. I did use, well, the die cuts out both the post and the top of it, and I wanted it to be a different color on the top. So I just took a Copic marker. I speak good English, right? And colored that a little bit darker with my Copic markers. You can use whatever alcohol markers you have. And then the rope die cuts out 4 sections of rope. And I do use all 4 of them on this one post. So you'll be able to, with one pass, with these 2 different dies, make one post. So I did die cut this like 4 times because I wanted to have a few pieces to use on a few different cards. When I get a new collection, I often do all of the assembly first and then start planning my projects, especially if it's fairly color coordinated between the groups of things that I create. Here we have the seagull. We've got this separate wing, and then I like how they created a very solid place to glue your legs on, so you don't have to fuss with placement there. And there is a separate piece for the beak. And if I remember correctly, there are several pieces that cut at the same time, like the beak and the legs cut out together. There might be one other piece with that. I took a small scrap of black cardstock and glued that behind the head to create the black for the eye. And we have just 2 pieces left to assemble. We have the 2 different buoys. We've got one's longer than the other. They're basically the same shape, just a slightly different configuration. I cut those out in 2 different colors here. I did a light orange and a light blue. I was kind of going for the more summer tones here. And then they have their coordinating stripes. Again, there's an embossed detail on the die cut to help you figure out how to assemble those. Next, we have the guiding light die, and it's got these gorgeous big rocks and this lighthouse. I'm going to assemble the lighthouse first, and I wanted this to be a little extra sturdy, so I die cut 2 of the lighthouse backers. I did have to get out my cheaters because some of these are really small pieces, and let's face it, my vision is starting to betray my age. We all don't want to think we are going to age like everyone else, but gosh darn it, it comes for all of us. There are some embossed details on this lighthouse to help you place all of the pieces, and they are very easy to place. Even if you didn't have the embossed lines, it'd be easy to figure out where these stripes go because they just fit so perfectly on the die cut. So I decided to do some blue die cutting here, and I am going to put, so there are several layers for this top piece, and this piece will actually get the blue behind the railing and for the top little finial piece, the little top piece that peaks above the roof. I think that's often a light also. I could be wrong. Anyway, I layered a silver base. So this is brushed silver cardstock that I die cut for these detail pieces that are more metallic. And there's a railing that's going to go on here also that I cut from the same color. Here are some extra ledges or details on both. Oh no, I didn't use brushed silver for the cap and for that solid base. I used a gray, and I used the brushed silver for the added details at the base, the lower base and the cap there, and then for the railing. Next, we're going to assemble the light that goes in the back of the lighthouse. And I used brushed silver for the casing for the light, and then a nice yellow for the light itself. We'll adhere that behind the cap there so it looks like it's peeking through. And then we have a door near the base of the lighthouse and 3 windows that we're going to adhere. Again, there is some embossing detail that helps you place both the door and all 3 of the windows. Just using my pokey tool with the wax tip, my pickup stick. So I'm using the wax tip to help pick up the pieces and place them. And then the pointy tool helps me nudge each piece into exactly the spot I want it and to remove any glue that oozes out. There is my completed lighthouse. And now I'm going to take the rock pieces. I had taken some gray cardstock and ink blended over the top of parts of it to create a slightly darker tone. I believe I used hickory smoke to do that ink blending. Then I die cut the base piece and each of these detail pieces, and these assemble very easily. I'm just lining up the 2 sides. The 3 of the sides will line up, but I just used 2, and there we have our layered rocks. Next, there are the beautiful little seagull die cut pieces. Moving on, we are going to the Uncharted Waters stencils. This is a 6x6 piece stencil set, and there are 6 layers in this set. Lots of 6s in there. Woohoo! And I'm going to start with stencil number 1, and this gives us our water part of it. And this is just the base layer of the water. I chose to use Salty Ocean with this, and we'll just ink blend this in to get our background. It does not have to be perfectly ink blended. There is variation to our waters, but I think I do get a nice solid inking. I am using Distress Oxides here, and so they ink blend very quickly and easily. I did use my pokey tool to help hold down some of the masking where the rocks are going to end up, but I don't know that I needed to do that. I am using my Altenew sticky mat to hold the paper and the stencils down, and I'm using a half sheet of cardstock here. If I used a smaller sheet of cardstock, I would have more space for the sticky mat to hang on to the stencil, but I love a good 5x7 card, and I just never know when I'm going to need that extra real estate. So why not go bigger with my piece of cardstock? I used hickory smoke there, and now I'm using a little bit of, did I use, no, I think I used pumice stone, and this was Lost Shadow to add the little cloud details up above. And next we're going to work on the sky portion, I think. Wait, I'm sorting through. Nope, I decided to go with the shadows, one of the layers of shadows on the rock. Now you're going to see that I did not do this perfectly. I did not line up my stencils perfectly, and I do end up having a little bit of a slip in my stenciling, so I get some extra green where I don't necessarily want it. I do come back after I've finished the rest of the stenciling, and I do some selective additional stenciling to add layers of mountain and forest behind that to cover up my oops. And I actually quite like it. I wish I'd recorded that though, just to show you how you can cover up your oopses and to show you how you can create some added depth and layering on your background stencil there. This next layer adds another shadow to your rocks and is the rocky shoreline above the trees up at the top there. So I'm going to use another layer of pumice stone, or I think it's pumice stone, but I'm not positive. For the ground, we're going to use gathered twigs, not gathering twigs. And I go over the gray stenciling with a little bit of this brown to create another color. Next, we're going to do the water details. I'm trying to line this up just right, and we're going to use Uncharted Mariner for this. This is a great color. I love this deep blue. And when you're going over the details of the water in this section, it's best not to do the circular motion because there's a lot of little pointy pieces. So I try to just brush in from the stencil out into the open area. There are also stencils for the birds, and I just pop those in quick. And then we're going to go in over the sky area with some tumbled glass, and I'm just doing it very lightly here. I am going right over the birds. You could wait and do the birds after you do the sky, but it really doesn't dull them out that much. I think I did go back and stencil over these, but I'm not positive. Now is when I come back in with the tumbled glass and just continue that sky up further on the panel so that we have a panel that will be big enough for a 5x7 card front. And I think that actually blended in quite well. I love how that worked out. I did go ahead and stencil that again for our card. Here I've got the measurements for this book card here. 2 pieces of 5 by, I should just follow the measurements for the different pieces here. This, I believe, was, let me think, 6 by 7 inches, scored at 1 inch on the 6-inch side. And don't do as I do here. You do not need to trim off this extra little sliver. I thought I was doing myself a favor here. I was not. But that was the new guillotine trimmer from Spellbinders. I love it. It is just over, it's like 6.5 inches wide. The markings end at 6 inches, but the very end of the guillotine is 6.5, and there's a little slope, and where that slant is 6.25. So I've made that work out very well for me. Next, we're doing the accordion folding for the book box insert here. And these are 5 by 6 3/4 and 5 by 4 3/4. They are scored at the half inch marks along the 5-inch side. And then I'm just accordion folding these. And I have creased them and I have not creased them. You don't have to crease them, but it does make it a little more tight, make it a little more collapsed so it doesn't take up quite as much space. And I am going to show you the complete assembly here, but I'm not going to show you all 4 of these pieces being accordion folded and creased. Next, we're going to take a long piece and a short piece, and we are going to sandwich up those accordion folds to create a corner. When you squish them down and push them together, they get more tight. They fit together more tightly, and you're looking for a nice 90-degree angle. On each side, you're going to pull up the top 2 flaps and adhere them together. And this will adhere your corner together. I like to take a little clip of some kind. You could do a whatever clips you have, just to hold that in place while I move on to the next section. Then I don't have to spend that time holding them together while they adhere. And you would not think that adding glue in just these 2 spots would do the job, but it really does. These hold together quite nicely once you get the glue in place and let it dry nicely. You could use dry adhesives, but in my experience, they do not hold 3D elements in place long term. Like if you came back in a few months, they'd be starting to let go. I also live in a very humid area, So that might have something to do with it. So my go-to, even for 3D things, is to use liquid glue. Sometimes I use the dry, like a two-sided adhesive tape and wet glue, so I can have the instant hold and the nice permanent hold of the glue. We're going to move on to our fourth corner, and this can be the trickiest since all the others are in place, but it doesn't seem to be terribly tricky. Just adding the glue under the two flaps, flipping, and doing our last flap. And that will complete the book insert, the accordion fold book insert. I did try adding gold, oh my gosh, lunar paste. I'm sorry, I was having troubles remembering what I was talking about. Solar paste to the edges of some of these pages once, but it didn't really work out the way I wanted. I did trim down my ink blended pattern and panel, and you can see the extra stenciling I did there. I trimmed it down to 6 3/4 by 4 3/4 and adhered that to the back of this book insert. I am modifying this wave so it's not quite so dramatic, and that's what we're going to use behind a fishing boat. Here you can see how it fits in there just a little better. If you had waves the sizes of the other wave with that other piece of the wave in there while you were on the fishing boat, you would be looking for a way to, not drown because that would sink a little boat. You wouldn't want to be out on the lake if the waves were that bad. So I wanted to make that a little more realistic. So we're going to glue this wave inside of our accordion book fold here, and I had taken a little scrap of some of the thicker acetate to add a little width to this so it will fit inside here and be stable, so it has some depth behind it. It is going to be like 2 accordion folds up from the base. Next, I thought I was going to be able to use these tunnel scapes, the tunnel clouds, to create layers inside this book card. Here I am laying that in there, planning this so carefully. I was going to use some ink blended here. We're going to do some blue, the tumbled glass ink blending on a piece of cardstock that I cut down to 6 3/4 by 4 3/4 to add our outermost tunnel layer. And I was going to lay this right, or I think I ultimately still do, lay it right over the top of that. And then I had die cut the smaller one out of some vellum. And you're going to watch me try very hard to put this inside of our accordion. I maybe could have done this if I adhered it as I assembled the accordion, but yeah, I did not do that. Ooh, I wonder if I could do that if I assembled 3 of the sides and slid it in. Probably not, because they don't line up completely. They there isn't like a solid slide slot to slide those into. I tried cutting these pieces apart and sliding them each side. You can get them in, but it doesn't look right because you've cut it all apart. Yeah, I finally give up on that concept and pull out all of the vellum. See, now my mistake will will save you time so you don't try something like this. Oh, we learn something right? Even through our mistakes. So then I go ahead and take that top layer, and I'm just going to adhere that on top of the insert, the book insert. Such great plans. I had all these plans that I thought were going to work out just fine. Yeah, did not work. I am taking this and just lining it up as best I can because, of course, the way we assemble the book insert, it isn't necessarily the most square. So we make do. And this actually did come together pretty nicely. So we've got this beautiful scene that we're building on the inside. And just because my other insert didn't work, doesn't mean we won't have a lovely card. So I pull out all of my assembled die cuts from the Fair Winds collection, and I'm deciding where I want to add some clouds. I didn't use the layered clouds. I used each individual layer on this portion. And I'm placing these so I'm not hiding all of our birds. I have another cloud that I'm going to adhere on this side, and they're just extending out into the opening. And I had adhered that cloud in one of the valley folds of the book insert on the inside. And we've got just a little cloud up on top. Now we'll go ahead and take our little tiny shadow seagulls. Oh no, I'm going to use the pier posts from the Oh Boy set, and we'll adhere a couple of those. Like we're peering from the edge of the lake. We'll throw in a lifesaver and another. Oh, I thought about a rock. Decided not to put a rock in there. Lots of thoughts here. Just auditioning lots of pieces in this. It's so fun to build this kind of scene. Even though it takes forever to create this card, it was so fun to create. I loved playing with this. We're going to add the tiniest of the, oh no, this is the bigger of the two seagulls. I'm adding that flying right above that cloud. And then the tiniest one will add up on the blue background above the largest cloud. Next, we're going to take our cute little seagull, and we're going to adhere him on top of one of the posts, adding glue just to his feet and the tail, because that's where it's going to adhere, using my reverse tweezers to help me get this placement just right, adding a little pressure, letting that adhere really well, and then we're going to move on to the front of our card. I am taking a piece of cardstock, so this is more of that blue cardstock. I actually used a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock from my stash, and this is a piece that's left over because the other two pieces were 6 by 7 inches, so I'd cut a 7-inch piece and cut that apart. We're going to use the Summertime Waves on this slightly smaller. I think this is 4 and 3/4. It might even be a little bigger than that. It's a little smaller than 5 by 7. I die cut the largest of the tunnel Scapes tunnel clouds, and then I ran it through the embossing folder with the Summertime Waves embossing folder. And then we're using this lavender blue or blue lavender gilding polish, and Spellbinders carries the wisteria blue gilding polish. So you can get a very similar effect with that one. I haven't been able to find the one I'm using right now on any of the sites that sell gilding polish. So you can get a very similar one. It just is, this one is blue on white cardstock and lavender on dark cardstock, and I think the other one is the opposite. It's just they're both very versatile. I did add some extra cardstock scraps behind this frame so that it had some sturdiness and a little bit of height, and I have a second ink blended panel here. I've trimmed that down to the same size or slightly smaller than this frame, adding that to the back of it so I can get a nice scene built on the front. We're going to adhere that to the front of our book card. I did add some extra cardstock behind the ink blended portion, and we'll just get that adhered down. I find that it's easier to do the front of the book card before you add the inside. Even if I have the inside all assembled, I wait to add that portion last. We have a couple of rocks. Actually, am I only using one rock? Yep, I'm only using one rock. Sliding that in there, slipping it underneath the edges of our cloud tunnel portion here. Taking my blue lighthouse and adhering that. It does cover one of the birds, but I could not avoid that. And then I'm going to take some clouds. I'm going to use the layered up clouds this time. Just digging through to find exactly the one I think will fit correctly. And this is a 2-layer one. And we'll add that on the right side of the card. Sometimes I have this placement all figured out, and sometimes I just have a vague idea of what I want to do. This time I had a vague idea of what I wanted to do, and I'm just digging through. Like I said, I had all of these different die cuts that I had all prepared to add to cards. I added a little clear wink of Stella on this one, and when I had created the layered clouds, I had 3 pieces of white cardstock. The middle, some of them I colored with a gray, a cool tone gray Copic marker, and some I had used the clear wink of Stella to add some sparkle. I like having different colors and textures on the layers of a cloud, just to accentuate the differences between those layers. Then I took another of these wave die cuts and tucked that inside. I do believe I had to trim a little off so it would fit inside of there. And this is the one that I trimmed off for the first, for the inside of the card. And I decided to use that on the front here, adding another extra wave here. Just going to tuck that in after I've trimmed off some of the extra. I do end up coming in with my pokey tool. I believe I needed a little extra help to get this wave tucked under the first one. And use your tools, y'all. Use your tools. So I just used my reverse tweezers to pull up that wave a little bit so I could tuck it in and make it look like it worked together. I love how that turned out. Next, we're going to add a couple more of those little seagull shadows, or silhouette dies. We are going to adhere the larger one here under the tiny cloud, and we're going to add the tiniest one here next to the lighthouse. And that pretty much finished. Oh, no, wait, not. We need to use the Fair Winds sentiments. This is stamps and dies. There's a bunch of beautiful stamps and dies here. The larger sentiments, the main sentiments, have coordinating dies. The rest do not. We're adding a little bit of Versamark here. Well, not a little bit. I stamped first with Versamark, but then remembered that I wanted to heat emboss this with white. And I like to use a white pigment ink when I'm going to do some white heat embossing. That just seems to fill in any of the blank areas that would show through the main color of the cardstock. If I use some white pigment ink, it kind of disguises some of those issues if you have them. I did stamp right over the Versamark with the white pigment ink. No harm, no foul there. And then I'm using some Alabaster White Brutus Monroe white detail embossing powder. Then we'll use the coordinating die to die cut the sentiment. Again, I cannot wait for my Scout. Well, I have it now. I literally just got it. I just took it out of the box. I haven't played with it yet. Oh, can't wait. I'll probably film my first usage, just like so many other people, because we're also excited to have this tabletop version, the little version, so that you can have it on your desk, like I do with the Sidekick. And it is a little bigger than the Sidekick, so hopefully it'll fit in the spot that I've been keeping my Sidekick in. I did cut a couple extra layers of that blue cardstock to back our sentiment, and we're going to adhere that right next to the lighthouse. I really like how that turned out. It says, "I'd be lost without you." Now, inside the card, I decided to use that fallout piece from the inside tunnel frame to do my sentiment for the inside. So I've lined that up in my little mini Misty here. and I'm taking some VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink and 2 of the sentiments from that Fair Winds sentiment set. I've lined them up in my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp them twice, and I am going to use some clear embossing powder over these, partly to seal in that black ink, because it can take a while for that beautifully crisp and sharp black ink to dry. But when you seal it in with a clear embossing powder, that solves that problem. So I'm heat setting this quickly, and this is a great way to use that fallout piece. You can definitely see that that is where it came from. I took a piece of white cardstock and I die cut that down to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and we'll adhere that on the left side of the inside of the card. Again, we're doing this before we adhere that layered piece for the book card. And I do not glue the binding edge, the back binding edge, to the side of my book card, because it makes it easier for this to open out and for you to write on this side if you needed to or wanted to for the message in your card. I chose the "I'm so grateful to be sharing life, love, and parenthood with you. Happy Father's Day." This is a great sentiment for a wife or husband to give to a husband or life partner on Father's Day. I just thought it was such a great sentiment. And I was definitely thinking of my life partner, my hubby, with this card. I've adhered that to the inside, and here is my completed card. I hope you are intrigued by this book card idea. Leave me a comment in the below. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do that now. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. If you're interested in any of the products that I used today, check that description box below. They will be listed and linked, and there is a full list link here if you want to see all of the products. They generally don't all fit in the description box. Until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.